The 1990s pushed race relations in pop culture further than anything previous, and I'd make the argument that pop culture was more diverse during that decade than it is even now. But for every in-living color, there was a Rodney King riot, or for every Denzel Washington or Lauryn Hill that was praised, there was also a Snoop Dogg or Dennis Rodman who weren't accepted by a largely white society. The 1990s was a time period where racism was seemingly on the way out, but tensions were boiling beneath the surface. That's the society that I grew up in when Disney decided to release the 1997 live-action made-for-TV film, Cinderella. Starring singer and Moesha star Brandy, as well as a diverse cast of actors and singers, it was meant to build hype for the newly returning Wonderful World of Disney Sunday evening time slot to ABC. But despite the hype and viewership, it seems to be forgotten by a large majority of people. It's been 25 years since the initial release. Yes, it has a cult following, and yes, it's still just as progressive and representative as it was in 1997, but it hasn't had the cultural impact it truly should have. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you how important this film was to me because I felt like I was represented, because that would just feel disingenuous. What I do want to do though is talk about Cinderella and 90s pop culture at large, and how it gave a false sense of progress during a time when racism was still an important issue many of us were ignoring. My name's Josh Taylor, this is Modern Mouse, and today I want to talk about 1997's Cinderella, how truly progressive it was, and why we struggle with that kind of progress now. Originally pitched to Whitney Houston in the early 90s with her playing the title role, it was shelved due to her other commitments. But when Disney was looking to relaunch the Wonderful World of Disney with a big event, it was suggested that Whitney Houston's Cinderella be picked up. The CEO at the time, Michael Eisner, would greenlight the film, and Whitney Houston would produce and star as the Fairy Godmother. She'd also handpicked Brandy Norwood to play Cinderella. She'd had a successful singing career up to that point with her debut 1994 album, and had shown her acting chops on the UPN show Moesha. By the way, Moesha was a true breakthrough show. Thanks to UPN and the WB, both television networks that had several shows headlined by African American stars, Moesha ran in syndication for a decade, starting in 1996. It was a classic sitcom, but it did deal with deeper issues, especially those that impacted Black Americans. The show also took the opportunity to have guest stars and introduce a large audience to entertainers like Monique, Genuine, Bernie Mac, and Usher. While never having a major theatrical run, Cinderella did premiere at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood before it debuted on TV in November of 1997. Disney's marketing and the general curiosity behind this movie garnered it an estimated 60 million viewers, and it outperformed ER and Seinfeld the week that it aired. Over 1 million copies of this movie were sold the week that it came out on home media, and this movie would go on to garner 7 Emmy nominations. I know sometimes we look down on made-for-TV movies. Okay, maybe we don't these days thanks to Netflix and various streaming platforms, but at that time, we definitely did. If a movie didn't receive a theatrical run, it usually meant that it just wasn't good enough for a theatrical run. But Cinderella proved that wrong. Its main audience was young girls who saw themselves in Brandy's version of Cinderella, and at that time, there wasn't a major criticism of Disney filling a traditionally white Eurocentric story with a diverse cast. Nobody was asking why Brandy was a Black Cinderella, or why Paulo Montalban was a Filipino Prince Charming. Nobody was questioning why Whoopi Goldberg, a Black woman, and Victor Garber, a white man, were playing a mixed-race couple on TV, or how this couple happened to have a Filipino son. It was just a widely accepted idea that we were playing along with the theatrical retelling of a fairy tale. Revisiting this movie now, I can't help but to see how effortlessly progressive this movie is, and how it set a bar for Disney that they really haven't reached since, no matter how hard they've tried. Of course, When it was originally released, the internet was still in its infancy. There were places to post your thoughts, like on message boards or chat rooms, but building an entire website is difficult. That's why I use Squarespace, who's sponsoring just kidding. Nobody's sponsoring this video, although I wouldn't be opposed to it, so Squarespace, if you're listening, you can reach out. But really, building a website was difficult, and social media was non-existent. I'm sure that racist people had racist opinions about a black teenage girl playing Cinderella, but they didn't have the platform. That's why films like Boys in the Hood or White Men Can't Jump could exist without constant critique from the public, or how shows like Living Single or Hanging with Mr. Cooper could discuss class and race relations without every single person needing to comment on why they were right or wrong in each episode. I can only imagine if Twitter was around when Ross from Friends started dating Aisha Tyler. But that's just it. Those people still existed. They just didn't have the reach beyond their own homes. As critics were celebrating Brandy and Whitney Houston in this new Cinderella film, there were plenty of people that weren't, but we were just blissfully naive to it. Now, 25 years after the film's initial release, I find myself on Twitter frequently infuriated with people who wanted to denounce Halle Bailey for being cast as a black Ariel for Disney's live-action Little Mermaid, or who get upset that John Boyega was cast as a hero in Star Wars. I sometimes wish that I could go back to being so blissfully naive, but that doesn't help anybody. Long gone are the days of nationally syndicated TV stations that held up and celebrated diversity. But as somebody who consistently talks about nostalgia and what that means for people, there is a false comfort in those TV shows and films, especially the ones that I thought helped end so many social and political issues, and that includes Cinderella. I still believe in what the movie represents, and in talking to so many people, I know what that film has meant to them as minorities looking for representation. But I struggle with it as it currently is. It's a false promise of true diversity in this moment right now. The 2021 version of Cinderella that Amazon put out isn't technically a great film. The acting is so-so, but like the 1997 version, it's filled with a diverse cast looking to bring back what Brandy and Cinderella did. Unfortunately, these days, with so much to watch on a variety of streaming services, it didn't have the same cultural impact that it probably could have had. It also tries to replicate that success in a world of social media, where too many people have too many opinions, and sifting through those opinions is a daunting task. In the social media age, we've rarely had breakout moments of progress in film and television that a vast majority of people got behind. For every movie like Get Out or Black Panther, we seem to have setbacks with movies like Green Book or Black Klansman. 1997's Cinderella gave many kids a true sense of being seen. It's estimated that of the 60 million viewers that saw that movie on the Wonderful World of Disney when it first aired, over half were young girls under the age of 18. I don't want to take that away from anyone, and I hope I'm not by saying all of this, but we do still need to work at changing perspectives and addressing race relations up front, rather than sweeping them under the rug like we did when this film first came out. So how do we do that? Well, first and foremost, I would suggest ditching the tirades on social media, because shouting through text won't convince anyone of anything. We should start talking to people face to face again, and I know that that's uncomfortable, but when people have to confront themselves and the people that they know with their own opinions, they become more easily swayed. If you need help, I would consider practicing a speech or taking debate classes or talking through a conversation with somebody who you know shares the same opinion as you. That'll end up making those awkward conversations at the dinner table with your family way easier. And if you have the ability to vote, you really should. There are plenty of politicians passing legislation that hurts underrepresented communities every year. The only way to reverse that is to educate yourself on the issues and vote towards better representation and progress. Lastly, I think that we should all be making friends with people who live outside of the same lifestyle that we have. And talking to my white friends exclusively here, we should be making more friends with non-white people. Talking to them about what matters to them and listening to what they have to say. I'm not suggesting some kind of utopian kumbaya situation here either. With just a few minor steps, a lot of things can change. Maybe then we can live up to the promises that Cinderella gave us back in 1997. It's possible. If you like this video and you want to see more from me, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and you can check out a similar video right here. I also leave a bunch of similar videos linked down below. And as always, thank you for watching, my friends, and until next time, keep moving forward.